As part of the series on the Tandy Pocket Computers, I wanted to show you the Sharp Pocket Computer accessories. In the first video of the series, I showed you the sweet little pocket computer PC-3, and this computer I've had since 1984, 83, 84, and I've used it. I learned to program BASIC on it, and I've used it through all of my engineering studies, my electronics studies, as I mentioned in the previous video. And this is the third PC-3 out of 8. Tandy came out in the 80s with a series of pocket computers, and PC-1 through PC-8, of course. And I'll be showing you a video on each one of those in this series. But I started the first video with the PC-3 because it's the one that I owned originally and have loved and learned to program on. And this particular model came with a number of accessories. Well, you could buy additional accessories, just like the PC-4 has a number of has an accessory that I'll be showing you in another video with the PC-4. But I'm really excited about this particular video because the accessory that comes with this particular model is in beautiful condition. You can see it's a nice vinyl case, excellent condition, and we're going to just take a look at what is available inside of this beautiful case. Here we have the made by Sharp CE125 printer and micro cassette recorder. You snap the Tandy computer into its place and it will communicate with the micro cassette recorder, saving and retrieving programs that you have purchased or have created on the device. It also allows you to interface with this printer and print data or information that your program produces, amortization tables, interest tables, those kinds of things for your customers, price list, whatever. Also allows you to print your code that you've created. You can print it line by line here and print code for the your programming experience. So let me show you what's in the case. The case comes with a power supply, comes with an adapter cable to hook up to an external tape deck. So if you want to use a larger tape deck with larger cassettes, you can do that in and out on the device, and I'll show you that in a second. Comes with a number of cassettes, a little reference card here. It even comes with the original Q-tip that was used to clean the heads on the cassette deck. And then there's an extra roll of thermal paper for the printer. So that's what's in the case. We'll just put all of this back and close it up. And I'll show you, in addition to what's here in storage, there is a storage compartment underneath the printer and microcassette recorder for the books that come with it. There's the application software book that outlines and explains all of the software that comes on a cassette that came with it. And then there's the user manual, the instruction manual. And then there are even some programming sheets that programmers would use to create their own programs. And you can see that the previous owner, in fact, even wrote one of their own programs. I think it was a program for inventory on and sales of particular products, and you can see the work that they did there on theirs back in the early 80s. So that's what's stored underneath the case. The unit itself is portable and runs on battery. There is a nickel metal hydride, or NiCad, I think actually, a NiCad battery pack in here, 4.8 volt battery pack that's not user replaceable. It's soldered into the electronics. It was bad, the one that was in it, so I replaced it with a nickel metal hydride 4.8 volt battery pack. It's charged, as you saw. The charger charges here, and here's the I/O port for the external cassette deck. There's a printer and the micro cassette. You can see the micro cassette here, and this is the original Sharp cassette that came with the application softwares that were listed in the book that we just saw a moment ago. So the data is stored on an audio cassette and is retrieved into the device. Before we show you how this works, I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with this particular accessory. When I purchased it, the printer did not work, would not feed or anything, and the cassette was not working. So I thought, well, let's just start. And so I worked on the printer and worked on all the connections and all of that, and finally got it to print where it would actually print information. And in fact, if you'll look here on the you can see code that I printed from a program that was on the device. So the printer is working beautifully. It's a little sporadic, but when it prints very nicely. The cassette deck, on the other hand, would not turn. I could hear the motor running, but nothing would turn. So I opened it up, took it apart, and discovered that the main drive belt was, in fact, in several pieces, as you can see here. And it's very aged and rubbery, very tacky, like typical rubber belts do happen. And so consequently, that was shot. So what I did was, it looked like all the pieces were there, so I measured the circumference, the length of the belt, the circumference, and my son had written a program to design belts of various thicknesses and widths and diameters, of course, and I plugged those numbers into his program and ended up printing this flex, on this flex material, printed a belt for the printer. This is an extra belt that I printed, and it worked beautifully. So that fixed the tape deck. So let's just do a little test here. We're going to pop the unit in just like that, and then we're going to turn the printer on, turn the computer on, and hit the clear button a couple of times, and we'll stop the program that's running. And let's just see if we can get it to print. No, let's just see. Okay, so it is advancing. Let's just see if we can actually get it to print some code. All right, it printed one line of code, and it's still working, so it's not going to let me advance it. Yeah, it's going to print a little bit of garbage, so it'll print sometimes, and then sometimes it prints garbage. It might have to do with, well, let me stop it here so it doesn't waste all my paper. It might have to do with the interference in the room with all the electronics. That is one issue that they had with this printer, that if it was in a high noise environment, electronic noise, you would get a little garbage. It's printing pretty good, so that's pretty impressive. The printer, the cassette part of the device works beautifully. It will retrieve or save programs to the cassette deck, and because you can't see the cassette turning and all of that, I'm not going to bother to demonstrate that. But I have tested it. I have retrieved programs, saved programs, and that is a really nice feature. So you can go to all the trouble of writing a program, and then you save it to a cassette, and you've got an archive of it, and you can later reload it or whatever you want to do. So that works beautifully. The remote control function, where the tape deck will not run unless the computer tells it to run, works beautifully. So all of that is very nice, and I'm just thrilled that the device works as it did back in 1983 roughly. So I'm going to take the computer off of this. So there you have it, the Sharp model CE125 printer and micro cassette. I didn't show you one of the micro cassettes. Yeah, I did. The application software. That is a nice little setup. It really makes everything portable, and you can see how small it is. It's about the size of an iPad, a mini iPad. So can you imagine lugging that around to the office and doing your work? Well, I appreciate you watching. Be looking for additional videos on the Radio Shack Tandy Pocket Computer series.